Ladies and gentlemen, tonight the part of, what's that guy's name?
I've got no idea. It's not here in the script.
Tonight the part of the guy will be played by myself, whilst the part of Reist will now be played by Slamoo. Please enjoy the show, and remember, don't fake the funk on a nasty dunk. It's 2007, my dearly departed, the year of BioShock, Call of Duty 4, The Orange Box, The Witcher, Mario-styled galaxies, the B-movies, the Crackdowns, and so much more memorable shit for both good and detestable that I will be here all night just trying to recount it all. But in August, for us Americans, Reality Pump would give us the first in their series of sandbox action role-playing games, Two Worlds. 3 years later, we would see the likes of BioShock 2, Call of Duty Black Ops, Red Dead Redemption, Dead Rising 2, StarCraft 2, Just Cause 2, Army of 2, 2 but not called 2, Mafia 2, Force Unleashed 2, DJ Hero 2, and a list of other terrible things that not only didn't age well, but didn't exactly start off very well either. All of which, up to and including Two Worlds 2, though it hit North America in February of 2011. For the first set of 10s in the new millennia, we sure had a lot of second outings, and, well, the spread does look a little different when we compare it to the 2011 releases. Two Worlds, as previously stated, is an action RPG. What was not previously stated, however, is that it follows in multiple veins of its predecessors, featuring the vast, open green hills much like Oblivion, the gear-whoring, shop-running, tiny upgrade mining grind of, say, Champions of Norath and the like, the constantly mindlessly clicking the left mouse button combat of Diablo, and the complete lack of depth and direction of just about every open world game that would come thereafter. Some nameless guy and his sister are caught up in a plot. Sis gets kidnapped, bloodline dumb stuff. It's up to the great hero who we are stuck referring to as the guy to fix it, or whatever. Sprawling adventures await us in the wasteland that is post-Elder Scrolls 4 open-world RPGs, so let's put on our worst armor, pick up those rusty swords, and prepare to run away from orcs, goblins, and variations on a theme with Two Worlds. So, dear sister, soon we shall find shelter from the storm, and then we shall feast upon tiny woodland vermin and... well, shit. As stated, the guy and sister are out and about for some unknown reason or another during the world's grainiest cutscene when sister suddenly disappears. Sometime later, we're contacted to do a thing by someone I'm guessing we're supposed to assume is important and have to go speak to somebody else, and then find Gandohar, who is somebody we apparently know, whom tells us to speak with Reist, whom is also somebody we apparently know. He tells us some dumb shit about our bloodline and demands we not only find all the parts to the ancient relic, but put that relic together, and then bring him said relic so he can resurrect the evil god of war who's been dead for some time, or he'll kill us and our sister, but that he needs us alive so he really can't kill us. And yet somehow during this catch-22 wherein everyone's dropping their cards all over the place, we get roped in with the promise that Gandohar might kind of maybe help us out of this shit as long as it doesn't involve betraying Reist. That mouthful over, we are given places we need to investigate and are told to go fuck off down the road and seek our own kind of adventure. The game is pretty much wholly open, allowing us to tackle the objectives in the order we choose and meet up once we get it all done. Throughout, we have a couple of spots we can meet to use our bloodline shining to communicate with our sister, and participate in some of the smaller stories around the world. Most are just miniature side quests that are entirely inconsequential, others are a little more fun, and the rest are supposed to trigger events that have a permanent effect on the world, but fail to do so due to the game being a broken, buggy jankfest. One such story early on involves us having to gain the favor of a house in the northern portion of the country so that we can do something. I don't quite remember. It's not truly consequential to the plot, but the game uses it as a trick to teach us about reputation. So we gain a house's favor, side with them in the local politics, and the other house disappears entirely from the game, taking with them all the NPCs attached to quests I currently had active. Now, if you're looking for an RPG with some meaningful lasting consequences that have an actual impact on the gaming experience, that's sure one fucking way to do it now, isn't it? Straight up Song of Ice and Fire this shit. Anyway, tiny stories aside, we have to go through multiple hoops to get the relic parts, meet up with Gandohar and Reist, get a cutscene crash, and reload the save, meet up with Gandohar and Reist, get another cutscene crash, and reload the save, Alt-Tab, go into the games folder, open the cutscene in the media player, and get the context of the great reveal where Gandohar was the mastermind all along. He scorches the sky with his love of Satan and takes our sister to the necropolis. We sadly get rid of his kick-ass sky pentagram, kill Reist, and meet up with Gandohar. We are given the option to become part of the New World Order or tell him to fuck off and kill him. If we become part of the New World Order, our sister essentially becomes the dead god of war, and we likewise become a deity. If we tell him to fuck off, we kill him and go on our merry way. Along the lines, a pseudo-side story is going on with necromancers, but for as much as it's played up for as being super fucking important, it all amounts to absolutely fuck all. Which essentially describes the story in a nutshell, all amounting to nothing until the end when only one action actually has any real relevance across the entirety of the game. Most RPGs by this point were trying to add morality to their worlds and stories. Not Two Worlds. Two Worlds keeps it pretty glib, and I don't know if it's out of laziness or not. For instance, necromancy is looked upon by the mage circle as being the ultimate evil, and you certainly encounter plenty of cannon fodder evil necromancers. But me? I was a necromancer. I was essentially the ultimate necromancer. I helped out a town of good guy necromancers, and aside from the constant theft I was committing, I never really hurt anybody. It's overall possible that necromancy is evil, but the game leaves it up to the player to decide. Another example of how the game presents morality to the player is in a quest line that you are trying to help him out recover his father's poetry. Or his grandfather's. Again, I don't seem to remember. In order to do this, you will have to go to the lady who currently owns them. She wants you to clear out a house of zombies before she will part with them. After you do so, she refuses to give you the poems. You're never told to kill her, and she never engages you in combat. You simply have a quest that says, get dem poems, and she refuses to honor her end of the bargain. So, yes, you have to kill her, and as long as you don't do it inside of townsfolk or guards, you get away with it scot-free with no mechanics telling you that you were a naughty boy. The game is filled with its small decisions that help flesh out its world, its muddy moralities, and its sordid little tales, many of which are, again, entirely inconsequential, and many more of which will fail to trigger their world effect entirely. You may think through all of that the story becomes a weak point, but it has an absolutely awesome saving grace. The voice acting. It's not pretty. Oftentimes, it will sound like it's coming through a tin can, but it's heartfelt and filled with silly accents and is an absolute fucking treasure. Most of the dialogue is boring as hell, but when you get people actually trying, it gets pretty fucking magical.
Where can I find the village elder?
Well, well, a lone traveler and no guards here. 5,000 gold or your life. Make haste.
Ah, indeed. That is a different, but I have a problem too.
It truly fits into the so bad it's good variety. The story never gets truly good, it's poorly paced, and thanks to the lack of direction the game leaves you, is sparse as hell, and not much worthwhile is off the beaten path. Due to its awful pacing, what I thought was the end of the tutorial and start of the first act really ended up being somewhere in the second, and what I thought was the start of the third act kind of ended up being the finale. As enjoyable as it was to listen to the story, it's a bit of a tragedy to play through. Baby, I hear them blues are calling, tossed salad and scrambled eggs. Man, he's taking forever. Gandohar, you sour milk-smelling excuse for a wizard, what have you done with my sister? Wow, harsh. Anyway, I haven't done anything with your sister. It was all Reist. Were you not an accomplice, you would simply be complicit. So give me none of your excuses. I will not have them. Wow, you are really judgmental today. Look, go see Reist, see what he has to say. I'm gonna do my best to help you defuse the situation. Okay? Okay. It's an isometric dungeon crawler ripped kicking and screaming into a 3D open world. If you aren't casting spells or using a bow, melee combat is just constantly clicking the left mouse button and occasionally pressing a hotkey for a skill or item use. Combat skills range from kicking dust into someone's eyes to whirlwind attacks. I didn't really play a bow, and magic skills are essentially spells you build. None of it, however, is tutorialized. None. Not one single bit of this game features a tutorial. It's Morrowind style, where you're expected to figure out how literally everything works. As a result of this, I never quite figured out how spellcrafting works, so the strongest thing I could get out of it was a summoning spell. The game has really bad mouse acceleration, so using a bow became a fight against the actual game to try and use. Building skills is important for gaining access to abilities and strengthening your attacks. Most of it is, again, entirely inconsequential, and requisite tutorials don't exist for magic, and how equipment is handled means the game will never have any more depth than its decade-old predecessors. Many things like lockpicking are automatic and are just behind-the-scenes rolls, while others are active skills with invisible cooldowns. Many of your available skills will sit behind a trainer you have to track down and pay to unlock. At 10 grand per skill, it sounds pretty steep, but then you realize lockpicking is super easy to level, you will have multiple stacks of picks, and you can burgle the entire planet with absolutely zero consequences, combined with the constant at-will fast travel with one teleport point bringing you directly to a vendor, and funding is never in short supply. However you choose to play the game, you can always track down a special vendor who can reset your character once your build has essentially become boring to you. And speaking of boring, combat is just a constant repetitive grind. It never branches out to requiring any skills, and the most depth it actually has is enemies constantly kicking dirt in your eyes. When this happens, you are locked out of being able to attack for around 10 to 20 seconds, but if you just mash right click to cast a spell a couple times, it'll cancel that stats effect. Outside of that, the game has only the constant one-shot enemies it loves spamming at you. And I do mean spamming. You'll turn a corner and boom! 30 giant mantis monsters who one-shot you swarm like yours is the last jock on Earth. So, how do you overcome these overly leveled bastards? With the upgrade system, of course. Like its dungeon crawler predecessors, it has hundreds if not thousands of armor and weapons to collect. Items with the same numeric ID can be combined to improve the stats. Through this, you not only become flat out invincible to the orc mobs that once one-shot you, but you can stack so much damage up so quickly that you entirely override the need to use blunt weapons on skeletons. So now that we've become invincible from the broken item combining, we go back to our horrible mantis monsters and they still one-shot us. You cannot reach a level where you become a challenge to them. You have to kite. Forever. For me, this became a process of spamming bear traps and necromancy traps. Necromancy traps to hold the mobs, since hitting them deactivates the necro trap, and using the bear traps on the monster I wanted to focus down, since those are time-based. So combat becomes a twofold process. Mowing down hordes of fodder, and kiting hordes of ubermensch and picking them off with the spamming of traps, which if you think you only have to do to the one-hit nightmares, allow me to inform you that enemies will just run straight up sheer cliffs to get out of your melee range, so there's that. And as if combat variety wasn't lacking enough, enemy types are little more than variations on a theme. Wolves are reskinned boars, skeletons are reskinned humans, Dead Knights are reskinned skeletons. These headless fuckers get reskinned into demons. Cyclops are reskinned ogres. Golems are reskinned cyclops. Bears are just down-pitched voice actor growls. Etc. etc. The variety of monsters is on par with the variety of combat styles. Skin deep. Absolutely meaningless. You can try to use summons to spice things up for different kinds of builds, but this level 15 summon, i.e. the max level summon, is physically incapable of hitting an enemy and drawing its attention due to its attack animations. The ultimate height of how bad the combat is displayed by dragons. Yes, children, dragons. The ultimate fantasy monster that are a laughable cakewalk you just stunlock to death. Oh boy! What else can we bitch about? Quest rewards pop up in tiny text causing you to miss what they are entirely, constant performance stutters, constant screen tearing, constantly not registering your inputs. A very beautiful landscape with wonderful things to see in the distance, but very little to actually do off the beaten path. Repetitive dungeons, very little direction when it comes to quests, worse location denotation on the map, increasing carrying capacity becoming entirely useless as you still have an inventory limit, shallow alchemy, fucking ghost skeletons. Look, just ignoring the fact that the game performs like absolute ass, the game's biggest sin is its handling of difficulty, as it shows an absolute lack of respect for the player's time investment. Why bother collecting loot when eventually I'll just have to start spamming traps? Why try magic when, thanks to a lack of tutorials, I'll never understand how to make effective spells? And the final nail in the coffin, in order to complete some main story objectives, you have to complete other objectives for random NPCs. For instance, one requires you to get a key from a random mayor. You are never told to speak to this person, you are never told where he is. You are never told there is even a town where he is. You are never even pointed in his general direction. You simply go to the location of the piece of the scepter and come across a locked cage. You can never open it until you find this mayor, do like 4 fucking quests for him, and on the 5th quest he gives you a key to that place. They're not even in the same region of the map. The game comes with a digital strategy guide because of shit like this littering the game. The game holds nothing but contempt for the player, and it is the spawn of incompetence. And it's almost kind of like they knew this. You see, you don't die in the game. When your health reaches 0, you spawn at the nearest altar with no penalty for it all, save having to walk back to where you were. Said altars are littered all throughout the map, and I mean all throughout. These altars also heal you, so you can essentially just sit at the altar while enemies who are too powerful for you wail on you, and yet you win simply by virtue of attrition since your resources become infinite. It's a crutch, an awful concession given to the players to make up for the fact that no matter how much they grind, no matter how they allocate their points, no matter how they level up their gear, at any point, 10 monsters that one-shot them through it all can just swarm. And here's where it gets truly weird, my children. With all that said and done, it's still kind of enjoyable. It's not enjoyable because it's good, mind you. It's more of that Tommy was so kind of fun. It's an insane and wild ride spawned out of a man's hubris and incompetence with just enough sincerity to sweeten the deal. If you can put up with a lot of jank, odd horse controls that are actually pretty easy to grow accustomed to, a beautifully realized but pretty stale map, and insanely poor performance, Two Worlds is actually worth at least one playthrough for the voice acting and jank you can get out of it. Just don't ask me why the fuck you can get orc gear, cause I don't fucking know.
The horn gates have closed and the synapse has unfurled. The nodes broadcast their beacons, only to be received by the void, and the void responds in kind. Christ, you scrotum-faced disappointment here, mother! What have you done with my sister? Wow, nice to see you too, jackass. Just for that, I'm not going to tell you what I did with your sister, but will instead merely put upon you a quest neither of you will survive. You can-tuna-skinned bastard whoreson! I shall have none of what you ask for! I hold all the cards! Now return my sister! No! Fuck you! Damn you, you snarling maw of broken and yellowed teeth reminiscent of a demonic vagina! Fine then! I shall do as you say. Could you, tone it down? That last one got really hurtful. Aha! Now I shall employ a great turnabout and say, no! Fuck you! Fair enough.
So Two Worlds was a very poorly received game, and rightfully so, being heavily criticized for its myriad performance issues and shallow-ass, repetitive-as-fuck gameplay. Opinions of it would lighten up a little as they kind of patched it and tried to fix it, but it would never truly be a good game, nor would it ever be looked highly upon. 2011, for us North Americaners, would see its sequel, aptly named Two Worlds 2, drop. Whereas the first game focused on the orcs invading and us having to do shit with Gandalf, 2 would start us off with a massive time skip and leaving a lot of questions unanswered right at the start. So without further time wasting, let's get into Two Worlds 2.
Guys, what's going on here?
I'm not sure. This doesn't look good.
Oh shit, I've seen this before. He's breaking!
What do you mean?
Go to the next scene! But we haven't even started the Great Camel Fight yet! No time! Go to the next scene!
As we stated at the start, massive time skip. More importantly, we learned that the sighting with Gandalf ending from the first game was canon, as Gandalf now has the guy and his sister trapped and is leeching off their deity powers to do something or other. I'm not entirely sure what. Shortly thereafter, we're rescued by orcs and have to play through the goddamn longest tutorials I have ever seen, surpassed only by Final Fantasy XIII. No shit! The game spends over an hour trying to tutorialize everything, and very little of it succeeds in making any sense. We meet up with some sort of future-seeing nipples, and meet our band of orc brothers we're going to be helping out. A big portion of it is going to be seeking out old runestones for our smith, and I don't actually remember what the main story involved. Yeah, about 35 minutes after the end of the tutorial, I kind of got lost as the direction in this game is even worse than the previous game, and I just kind of started following around random quest markers. We have to get from one town to another for some reason, as the first town we encounter has been denied trade. We're given a horse to get there, and I want to fucking die! The first game's horse controls were not great. They also, however, weren't bad. The horse wanted to stick to pads and its handling was a little stiff, but it was easy to pick up on and in time becomes second nature. Hold W, turns as you would expect a horse to turn. Not this game, no siree! First and foremost, in order to get the horse to move, you have to keep right-clicking, but the horse has a meter. This meter not only determines your speed, but whether or not your horse is about to kick you off. You have to regularly right-click to maintain your pace without going over that threshold. Once a pace has been set, it will slowly degrade until the horse stops if you don't keep clicking. Now, supposedly left-clicking will slow the horse down so you can manually stop, but if it does, it takes so long that there is no noticeable difference between doing so and simply allowing the meter to run out. On top of that, spacebar now causes the horse to jump, so you can't quickly hop off your horse to engage enemies. You can't quickly hop on either, since now the slightest movement won't have the guy inspect, interact, or mount, and will instead make him jump, exacerbated by the fact that windows to interact with objects are very small, and you spend half your time jumping even though you're standing still. But back to the horse. The directional buttons are relative to camera position, so turning is now an absolute hell, and the reason we're talking about all this because in order to get to the town to open trade up so we can save all the starving people is that we have to engage in a horse race, and You know, I'm supposed to be talking about the story, but for the life of me, I don't remember what is actually part of the main story. I mean, for 3 hours into the game, I am now compiling a list of things I would rather be doing instead of completing this game. 1. Contracting herpes. 2. Kill myself. 3. Abandon this game, abandon this episode, and never make videos for this channel again. 4. Never play video games again. 5. Oh hey, Sunset Overdrive just came to PC. 6. Oh hey, Underworld Ascendant is out. God, what is with this guy? Always taking fuck forever. Gandoha, you melon baller, face tribulation upon your parents' household. I have brought the scepter. Now, release my sister, as per the agreement I forced out of Reist with my witty repartee. You know what, man? I was gonna release your sister. I was going to be all like, fuck you, Reist, let's abandon this shit. It ain't no good to nobody anyhow. But now, nah, dog. Now I'm the bad guy. It was me, Austin. It was me all along. Gandohar, you treacherous, lecherous, perpetuous snake. I'll have your fins for soup. Yeah, I'm fucking sure you will. Poof. Fuck. But, considering I'm an insane masochist, I decided to go on ahead with the game. Insane horse controls aside, everything is already on linear paths that are pretty short and sprinting can go for quite a ways, so I kinda just ignored using a horse. Combat is still pretty simplistic, only now active blocking and counter maneuvers have been added. Bow usage is expanded upon, and while spellcrafting makes a hell of a lot more sense, spell casting now has charge times. When it comes to combat, it's mostly a second verse same as the first situation, only the insanely powerful monsters constantly killing you outright comes at you right out of the gate. I mean, look at this. I'm in the first fucking area, and this is what I'm having to do. And then there's this unkillable fuckface. And then there's the baboons who will chase you across the entirety of the map to snipe you with poop, and I can't fucking survive a single hit or kill anything, so I have to stop playing the fucking game and start grinding small mobs just to get enough levels to fucking survive. Gone are combining items to improve them, and instead comes a very simplified crafting system. Items can be dismantled for parts, which can then in turn be used to upgrade items of your choice. It's simple, there's no real depth. What fucking sucks about the whole thing is look at this fucking menu! It's like warped glass. It makes everything clash and blend in all the worst ways, and not only is it hard to tell what I'm looking at, but for the first time, it literally became physically painful to look at. So, everything is just as, if not more simplified. Difficulty is absolutely insane to the point that just a couple hours in, I'm already grinding like it's Mother 1, and I finally made it to my first big city. We get caught up in an investigation trying to find out who murdered who, have to start working with the mafia to find a wizard, work with the wizard's underling who tells us if we want information we have to go get this guy's trust. To get his trust we have to go find dragon scales in a dungeon. In said dungeon, I'm just sprinting through mostly empty halls and... I fucking quit. This is blind tedium. I don't even remember what the plot is, because every time I meet anybody, I have to do a slew of quests to gain their trust. And oftentimes, one of those quests will require me to meet new people whose trust I have to gain, and that will be all in service to just wasting my time. It was at this point where I'd been spending the last 2 hours just trying to mainline the main quest shit, but even the main quest shit slows you down to a mind-numbing crawl. On top of all that, the wonderful condescending crutch of respawn points, they're gone now. Now when everything is one-shotting me, that's it. If I didn't save recently, I lost a lot of progress. Now that's normal for most RPGs, but most RPGs also have sensible difficulty in relation to their player mechanics. But not Two Worlds 2! No! I was begging for those stupid little shrines before I quit this ass blast. Even the world feels lessened. It's still large, it's still open, but the camera has changed. They've decided to pull the camera in close to the guy like he's trying to trust fall him, creating a claustrophobic feeling, on top of which you now see less of the landscape, which creates a more closed off feeling than the previous game could have possibly presented. Do you know what the worst thing about all of it is? Two Worlds 2 was received far better critically than Two Worlds 1. This unplayable, ungodly mess was looked on pretty fucking favorably. Now, as it turns out, that might be because they threatened to blacklist anyone who spoke ill of them. We are not truly sure. But what I am sure of is this is just a god-awful mess, and I don't want any more of it. That list wasn't a joke. I'd rather work 10-hour shifts 7 days a week and never have time to play video games again than continue with this absolute trash fest. They don't even have the wonderful voice acting anymore. It's just this bland, melodramatic, cliched bullshit, and oh my god, what the fuck is wrong with your cape? I'm done. I quit. There are so many things I would rather be doing. So many things that are worth what little word of mouth my channel can give them. Berserk for the PS2 has a full English translation that I can play. I can play Champions of Norath in 1080p and it looks fucking fantastic. Sunset Overdrive, Underworld Ascendant, the list goes on eternally. I'm done with this nightmare. Hate to do it, but I cannot stand this anymore. Two Worlds 1 is a mess. It's a mess that is very fun despite the broken glass all over the floor. But 2? I'd rather nuke everything than continue playing it. It deserves a special place in the fiery lake for all eternity, and may the studio that shat it out never have work again for it. I'm the TheNecroswanson, and you can go fuck yourselves.
Well, we all learned a valuable lesson about summoning ancient orc war gods now, didn't we?
Dear sister, you pox-ridden bar wench, I do believe you have the right of it, even if this is the first time I could ever say so.
Fuck! Now I know what Rast was talking about.
And curtain drop. Fuck this shit. I'm out. Don't fucking talk to me. Don't call me. I'm gone. I'm done. Fuck all of you. I'm out.